Welcome to Radquarters. Today we'll be talking about ultrasound of trigger finger. I'm Dr. Dan Koval, and this episode is sponsored by Samsung Ultrasound. The beautiful images that you're about to see were obtained on a Samsung RS-85 Prestige ultrasound unit. We're going to review a few cases of trigger finger with varying degrees of severity, and I'll highlight key teaching points throughout. So first, let me review finger annular pulley anatomy. The pulleys are fibrous retinacula on the ventral side of the finger, so that's the side of the palm, that secure the flexor tendons to the phalanges. So this blue bar is a diagram of the flexor tendons, and these yellow boxes represent the annular pulleys. So these act like seat belts and will prevent the tendon from being displaced or bowstringing with finger flexion. And as you can see, the finger has 5 annular pulleys. These will be odd-numbered at the level of the joints and even-numbered at the phalanges. So there's the metacarpal bone, proximal phalanx, middle phalanx, and distal phalanx. So that makes this joint the MCP joint, the metacarpal phalangeal joint. There's the proximal interphalangeal joint and the distal interphalangeal joint. The odd-numbered pulleys A1, A3, A5 will be located at the MCP joint, the proximal interphalangeal joint, and the distal interphalangeal joint. Whereas the even-numbered pulleys like A2, you'll see that over the proximal phalanx there, and A4 will be over the middle phalanx. There are also cruciform pulleys, which will be located between these annular pulleys. Those are shaped like an X, but we don't reliably see those on ultrasound, so I'm just going to focus on annular pulleys. Ultrasound is a great way to look at the annular pulleys and the flexor tendons because we can also do dynamic imaging. So here we're looking at the level of the A1 pulley, this region here on the X-ray. Now we're looking at this on long axis on ultrasound. So the left-hand side of the image is proximal, right-hand side is distal. So there's the metacarpal phalangeal joint, and the proximal phalanx, and overlying that is this thin hypoechoic slip representing the A1 annular pulley. Between the pulley and the bone, we have the flexor tendon, which has a superficial portion, the flexor digitorum superficialis, and a deep portion, the profunda. And when the pulley is normal, it can be a little difficult to see on long axis images, but when we turn short axis, you can very nicely see the curvilinear shape of that A1 pulley. There it's anechoic to hypoechoic, and you can see how it holds the tendon down to the bone here. This is the metacarpal, like a seatbelt. So there's the flexor tendon again, the superficial and deep portions. Now let's look at a patient with symptoms of trigger finger. So we're at the same level. This is also the middle finger. And what do you notice that's different about this patient? You can see that the A1 annular pulley appears thick on the long axis images and a bit heterogeneous. When we turn short axis, it definitely appears thicker than the normal comparison example. And this patient had a history of locking and triggering of that right middle finger. On physical exam, there was a painful palpable nodule in the area of that A1 pulley. So this patient had trigger finger. This is also known as Stenosing Tenosynovitis. And it's characterized by impaired flexor tendon movement with a thickened pulley leading to tendon constriction. So there's basically a mismatch of diameter between the flexor tendon and the annular pulley. And we see this most commonly at the A1 pulley. The typical symptoms include triggering or locking when the finger is flexed. There may be painful snapping when it's extended, and then just overall pain in the affected region as well as joint stiffness. Evaluating this patient with real-time imaging with dynamic flexion here, we can see sometimes with tendon movement, it will better outline the pulley, whether it's normal or abnormal. There's this thickened heterogeneous hypoechoic pulley. We can actually see the superficialis and the deep tendons gliding beneath it without significant hitching or locking in this case. And that's because this patient could only elicit locking with full finger flexion, which could not be imaged in the long axis. But it's a good example of how dynamic evaluation will show tendon movement relative to the pulley. Trigger finger is more commonly seen in female patients and also those with diabetes mellitus and rheumatoid arthritis. It's often idiopathic, but it can occur with repetitive microinjury, such as repetitive flexion and extension. But it can also be post-traumatic or due to a compressive mass, such as a ganglion cyst. Treatment is usually conservative initially with splinting and nonsteroidal anti-inflammatory medications. Ultrasound-guided corticosteroid injection may be indicated, and if those measures fail, then surgical release of the pulley may be considered. As far as a precise thickness of the A1 annular pulley between normal and abnormal, Dr. Spirig et al. Found that a cutoff of 0.62 millimeters could differentiate between normal and abnormal, whereas an earlier study by Dr. Guarini et al. Found that normal annular pulleys had a mean thickness of about 0.5 millimeter, and those patients with trigger finger had a thickness of 1.1 to 2.9 millimeters. And this is often best measured in the short axis. If there's ever any uncertainty, comparing with the asymptomatic side is often helpful. Let's look at a more advanced case of trigger finger. This was a male patient that had impaired flexor tendon movement of the fifth finger, the pinky finger. So here we're looking at a short axis view of the A1 annular pulley. And what do you see here? Well, between the calipers, we see a thickened hypoechoic pulley overlying the flexor tendon. When we evaluate this in real-time imaging, here we're looking at a long axis view. There's the metacarpophalangeal joint and proximal phalanx. And this heterogeneous hypoechoic nodular structure is the thickened A1 pulley. So much thicker than the last case. It also has kind of a globular configuration. And notice how it's impressing upon the underlying flexor digitorum tendon, impairing movement, particularly at the level of the flexor digitorum superficialis, which is somewhat hypoechoic, indicating associated tendinosis. So a more advanced example of trigger finger with restricted tendon movement. For this last case, let's revisit our pulley diagram for a moment. So we've been talking about the A1 pulley, about the MCP joint here. Notice distal to that we have the A2 pulley overlying the proximal phalanx and the A3 pulley about the level of the PIP joint. This patient presented with a history of pain, swelling, and a popping sensation of the proximal second digit, so the index finger. And here we're looking at a short axis view in the region of the A2 pulley. So this is the proximal phalanx down here, this is the flexor tendon complex, and then the overlying A2 pulley. When it's normal, the A2 annular pulley will look similar to the A1 pulley on short axis images. What do you think about this case? Does this look normal? Well, the pulley is rather thickened and heterogeneous. It's not that thin hypoechoic slip that we would expect to see with a normal pulley. Also, there's this irregular anechoic cystic structure partially embedded in the pulley at the margin, indicating the presence of a peri-pulley cyst. And when we add color imaging, this is MV flow imaging, which is a form of microvascular flow that's great at detecting slow flow in small caliber vessels. You can see that the pulley is quite hyperemic, indicating that it's irritated. So we have a thick hyperemic A2 pulley with a peri-pulley cyst. What would you like to do next? Well, let's look at this on sagittal imaging. So again, proximal is on the left-hand side, distal on the right-hand side. So that's proximal phalanx. Here we're at the PIP joint, and then middle phalanx, and then here's the flexor tendon. And there we're seeing that thickened A2 pulley. So it actually extends along the length here. It's longer than the A1 pulley, and it looks abnormally thickened. And when we do dynamic evaluation with flexion, we see a few abnormal findings. So here's that thick A2 pulley. We can see there's that cystic change at the margin. And we also see some buckling of the ventral contour of the flexor tendon, kind of in the region of where we'd expect to see the A3 pulley. So in between A2 and A3. And then we have this dense posteroacoustic shadow here, triangular shape, that represents the dark tendon sign, which is a sign of constriction. This is better evaluated in real-time dynamic imaging with flexion here. So there's that thick heterogeneous A2 pulley impinging upon the underlying tendon with some cystic change. We see the buckling of the contour here of the flexor tendon, and then we see this dark tendon sign. You can see when the tendon is extended, the fibrils are tightly packed, linear, and echogenic, but when it's flexed, they become bunched together, causing this anechoic, hypoechoic shadowing. And there we're seeing the volar plate. So it's common to see pulley hyperemia due to pulley irritation. As the disease progresses, the tendon will become increasingly nodular and thickened, indicating tendinosis, and we may even see tears, which would appear as fixed anechoic clefts. Not only will we have impaired tendon movement, but it will start to buckle on dynamic imaging. And this appearance of the dark tendon sign can be very helpful in identifying constricted tendon. And that refers to anisotropic hypoechogenicity due to tendon constriction. And what does that mean? So anisotropy refers to a phenomenon that's fairly unique to tendons. We can also see it with ligaments, but more commonly with tendons. And because tendons are tightly packed, compact fibrillar structures oriented in a longitudinal fashion, when the ultrasound beam hits it at a 90-degree angle, they will appear bright. But if the beam hits it off 90 degrees, it will appear dark. And that's why in this case, when the tendon is extended, the beam's hitting it at a 90-degree angle and the tendon fibers look bright. But then when we flex the tendon because of the constriction, we're getting this bunched up, disorganized fibers, the beam's hitting it off angle, and we get this dark shadow, the dark tendon sign. Also in the acute setting, we might see a synovial sheath effusion with trigger finger. So that will just look like fluid around the tendon. And finally, we occasionally will see peri-pulley cysts, as in this case, which can actually be a cause or contribute to trigger finger due to mass effect, or it can be part of a spectrum where we actually get cystic degeneration of the pulley as the trigger finger evolves. Even though A1 is the most common site for trigger finger, as in this case, we can also see it at A2 or A3 annular pulleys, or between the two, where the tendon fibers cross. An additional site to be aware of is the palmar aponeurosis, so that occurs at the palm of the hand, overlying the distal metacarpal, just proximal to the A1 pulley, and sometimes it's referred to as the A0 pulley. Just to show you where that is on our diagram, so here's A1, this is the distal aspect of the metacarpal. The palmar aponeurosis we would see proximal to that region. So if you're ever scanning a patient and you see a normal A1 pulley, but as you're moving proximally towards the hand, you see an additional area of thickening, and it seems to be impairing tendon movement, that may be trigger finger due to the palmar aponeurosis. And if the finger appears normal despite having a history of trigger finger, it's worthwhile to examine the patient's wrist, because sometimes the ventral flexor retinaculum at the wrist can impinge upon the flexor tendons there, causing downstream triggering. And even on the other side of the wrist, on the dorsal side, the extensor mechanism can be impinged upon by the extensor retinaculum. And if you'd like to learn more about trigger finger, 2 excellent articles I've listed here, one by Dr. Bianchi, the other by Dr. Shoda, so check those out. Hey, thanks for joining me, and I hope you found this educational. Thank you to our sponsor, Samsung Ultrasound. If you like this lecture, a great way to support us is to subscribe to the video podcast on Spotify or Apple, or by clicking the YouTube subscribe button. To see bonus teaching material posted throughout the week, follow us on social media. Links are in the show notes, or click the YouTube community tab. Until next time, radiology is life.